Hey guys, it's Sarah Jane. Sorry for the harsh lighting. My options for recording here are super limited and how flattering things can be. Today's video is going to be a recommendation for new lieutenants. I feel like there's so much advice out there and so many people give you advice at the beginning of your career and they all just kind of sound the same, like listen to your NCOs, don't try to be a know-it-all. Just all these like very generic things that is helpful, but there's so much more advice out there that I feel like new lieutenants can be getting and they just don't know. Just a little history about me. I am a first lieutenant. I have been in the Army for over 2.5 years. I feel like I've been in it long enough to be able to give a little bit of advice for new lieutenants that are coming in. A little deployment history and just a little history about me. I did spend 8 months as a supply PL in a BSB, where I deployed with them to Kuwait, and then I moved over to a forward support company, and I'm now on a rotation with them in Germany as a Distribution Platoon Leader. I will be taking on the position as an executive officer here within the next couple weeks. So I feel like I have had a very good, well-rounded experience as a platoon leader, and for incoming lieutenants, I feel like I can give a little bit of advice of the things that I learned during my platoon leadership time. Now, all of this advice is stuff that I've personally learned. It might not be applicable to all the branches because there's so many different types of branches within the Army, but this is what I recommend from what I've learned. So this might not affect everyone, but take it for what it's worth. So my first advice, when you get to your unit, get on your commander's calendar. Not only get on it to have your initial counseling, but also be able to view his calendar. So ask your commander, hey sir, can I get access to your calendar so that you can see his schedule? So if you need to set up a meeting with him or something like that, you can do that. It just gives you more awareness of what's going on. 2, come in shape. Now this is something that is a generic advice comment that everyone gives that I actually do really recommend. Aim for a 275 or higher on your PT test. The PT test goes up to 300 points. As a lieutenant that's coming in brand new, you should definitely be scoring at least a 275 because you want to have a good first impression, not only to your commander, but to your soldiers. You are supposed to be the standard as a platoon leader, so if you are scoring like the bare minimum 180, it doesn't look good to your soldiers. They're not gonna respect you. Here's another thing, make an I Love Me book. So you should make 2 kinds of binders, and I just recommend like a standard like 1-inch, 2-inch binder for each, an I Love Me book and a property book. So an I Love Me book is like everything that has to do with you. So I recommend putting a copy of your orders, a copy of your OERs. When you get out of bulk, you'll get an OER, put that in there. Copies of your driver's license, because you'd be surprised how often you need a copy of your driver's license, and just random things like that. And as you find that you need that throughout your Army career, put copies of whatever this paperwork is that you need into this I Love Me book. If you don't have internet access or you just need a copy really quick of something, you have it right there on your I Love Me book. And I found that to be super helpful for me. And then the other kind of book you need to make is a property book. And property is something that I feel like when you're in ROTC, they don't teach you a lot about it. You just are kind of, oh yeah, you'll get property. But no, property is like a really big thing as a lieutenant. You are assigned for like millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment, and you're expected to not really lose any of it. And I totally recommend, once you take over a platoon, to sit down, look at your property, sign it down immediately to your corresponding NCOs, and keep a property book of who you signed it down. Now I have mine. I don't have mine here with me or I would show you guys, but my property book is tabbed off, so like all of my PLSs are in one section and they're signed down. All of my LHSs are signed down and in one section, and I do it by specific types of vehicles because it makes it more organized, easier to find, and then when you sign it down, it holds that NCO responsible for that equipment, and he'll sign it down to the soldier. So this just keeps everyone accountable for equipment, because if you lose a piece of property, it is so expensive. The Army buys the most expensive equipment. So one thing they just don't teach you or talk about is property in ROTC, or at least we didn't talk a lot about property. Property is such a big deal as a lieutenant, and you should like learn more about it. Like I recommend getting into the TMs, getting into learning more about like what goes into property. What should a real BII layout look like get to know your property as soon as you get to your unit and what you're responsible for, because at the end of the day, you are the one that's accountable for it. And the last advice that I have to give is brush up on examples of how to do a counseling. So we briefly talked about counseling when we were in ROTC, but we really didn't delve into it. And counseling is honestly like a really big deal, and NCOs that you rate really rely on that counselings to develop. So once you get to your unit, when you get a platoon sergeant, you have 30 days to give them an initial counseling, and then you need to do quarterly counselings from there. And sometimes it's hard to remember that, but what I did was I put it in my agenda like, hey, so-and-so's quarterly counseling is due this month. You must do it. And don't be afraid to do negative or positive counselings, like event counselings. I used to be really kind of like, oh, I don't want bad paper. But then you realize that like that's something they really revere, is a counseling, like how you think of them and how they should improve, or if they did something wrong, or if they did something right. Counselings don't always have to be bad. So I totally recommend that you do event-oriented counselings as well, because the soldiers, your NCOs, will learn from it. Look up examples online. I remember when my first commander did his first counseling with me, that is what I set my standard to do all of my counselings. So don't be afraid to do the counselings, and then make sure you keep a copy of those counselings and put them in your I Love Me book that I just talked about. Make a section for counselings for your NCOs, and you keep that, because if you need to, like, if an NCO is really bad, you know, you have the paperwork to reinforce a negative NCOER, or you have positive paperwork to enforce a positive NCOER. So make sure you are keeping track of your counselings. And then when it comes to NCOERs, those are really important, because those affect your NCOs. Those are literally what shapes their career. So really think about what you're saying, and if they deserve or don't deserve a certain bullet. Don't just slap something on paper just because you feel like you don't want to put in the effort. Like, it's important. That's my advice for upcoming new lieutenants. I hope this video was helpful. I know that this is a very different type of video. I'm just sitting down talking to you guys. This is what I would recommend for new lieutenants, besides the standard advice that I feel like a lot of lieutenants get. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you want to stick around and see more videos like this, and give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys later.